All right. Have you heard about blind bidding? I keep hearing all about blind bidding. And got in a conversation with a friend the other night, and he was surprised that this practice has made its way to Alberta. It's not new here. It's not really blind bidding. I don't like to call it blind bidding. But I want to talk about blind bidding because everyone's talking about it. And Trudeau even campaigned on this practice in the election last fall. Talked about banning it because it's unfair to home buyers. CBC has run some features about it. The Post Media has run some features about it. There's a spotlight on this thing. It's kind of this boogeyman right now in real estate. Buyers are frustrated with this blind bidding. And if you're a buyer in today's market in Calgary, this is something that you're probably going to be up against. So my name's Taylor. If you didn't already know, I'm with Redline Group, part of Real Broker. And in this video, I'm going to explain what this practice is, what it means for buyers and sellers, and how you can navigate the process. Okay, so like I said, this blind bid thing's a bit of a boogeyman. The proper term is sealed bid. That's nothing new, a sealed bid auction. That's a practice that's been around for hundreds of years. And, for Trudeau to campaign on this, he's never gone out with a realtor and shopped for a house. He doesn't know what normal people's lives are like. But he's trying to score some cheap points. And it plays well to the focus groups probably. And so he's made it an issue. That was a campaign issue. You'll probably never hear about it again from him. But this is just a politician trying to say whatever will get him elected and trying to find an issue that will resonate with people. The CBC picked up on it and ran a feature back in September, which made it look unfair and unethical and put realtors in a negative light, some of which was probably deserved. So how does it work? I'm going to give you an example. Calgary market right now, a seller decides to list their property. They might list it on a Thursday and then accept showings all weekend and then provide a deadline when the offers will be presented, maybe Saturday or Sunday night. The private comments that the buyer's agent can read might say, offers to be presented at 6 p.m. Saturday. Submit your best and final. The seller's agent will generally disclose to the buyer's agent how many offers they have and who made them. That way the buyer's agent can call that other agent and verify. I've done this lots of times. I always do this. So if they're bluffing, if they're lying, saying they've got other offers, say, who are they from? Oh, they're from Bob at Remax. Okay, well, let's phone Bob. Hey, do you have an offer on such and such address? Yes, I do. Okay, good luck. Okay. So the seller's agent will generally disclose how many offers, who made them. That way you can call and verify. This process is generally respected by buyers and sellers and their agents. And as professionals, we'll do our best to keep it fair and equitable. But ultimately, in Alberta, it's the seller who gets to decide how it goes. The seller determines the process. If the seller doesn't want to disclose the other offers, they don't have to. If the seller promises to hold offers until Sunday night, but then they turn around and accept a very generous offer on Friday afternoon, before the other buyers have had a chance to submit, or maybe before they've even had a chance to look at it, well, too bad. It's the seller's house, seller's rules. So from the buyer's perspective, you see a house that you like, you go view it, and you want to make an offer, you want to compete to buy it. You know you're in a competing situation. Most detached homes in Calgary now, under a certain price point, you're going to be in this situation for the time being. So you and your agent are going to submit your best and final offer. So it's one bid. You get one shot. Okay. Your agent will verify that there are competing offers, and you'll do everything you can to make your offer more attractive than the other ones. And that's not all about price, but I'll come back to that later. So say it reaches 6 p.m. Saturday night or Sunday night, and the seller's agent presents the offers to the seller, and they discuss the pros and cons of all of them, and then they pick one. If it's yours, congratulations. If it's not yours, good luck next time. And this is what you see happening in markets like Calgary right now, and Airdrie, especially where I live, where, for example, last night there was a home that had 23 offers on it. So one person wins, 22 people go away more hungry. 22 people go to the next house and put a more aggressive offer in and become more and more desperate every time they do this. It was very frustrating for buyers. So the CBC, The National, did a feature back in September called "Would an End to Blind Bidding Help Canadian Home Buyers?" So give it a watch if you haven't already. It's like 8 minutes. If you haven't seen it, skip ahead. If you have, here's some food for thought. Okay, so the consumer, the buyer, Jeannie, apparently, allegedly, was told she was in a competing offer situation, that there were other offers, and she bid $230,000 above asking price. There were apparently no other bids. So their realtor didn't do their job. Might have lied about the other offers. Looked really bad. The seller's agent might have lied to the buyer's agent and said there was offers, and the buyer's agent didn't verify. So we don't know for sure, but it looked bad. At best, their agent was sloppy and incompetent. At worst, they were dishonest and manipulative. Not a good look. Again, this buyer lost 4 homes in multiple offer situations before they got this one. We also don't know if that property was deliberately underpriced, which is very common in Toronto and in that area, where they'll deliberately price it way below what they know it's going to sell for because they want to generate as many offers as possible. Because the more offers there are, probably the higher price you're going to get. People know they're competing against 20, 30, 40 other offers. You're going to come really strong with your best and final offer. The seller in that situation on the CBC show, we don't know if they would have even accepted a full price offer, a list price offer. They might have turned it down. They might have been expecting to get $200,000 over asking. We don't know. But it's television, okay? It's a CBC. It's entertainment. But since that program aired, I keep hearing about blind bidding and why it's unethical. In that CBC show, they cite a poll. They probably made their own poll. I don't trust polls. But they cited a poll saying that the majority of Canadians want this practice banned. I'll guarantee that the respondents to that poll weren't selling their houses, and they probably didn't understand the question. They probably didn't understand what this process is and what it means for buyers and what it means for sellers. It definitely invites some conversation, though. The feature on CBC, it also suggests that open auctions, like live bids, which are commonplace in Australia right now, they suggest that process might be more fair. So let's explore what might happen at a live auction. So in a live auction, you know what all the bidders are. It's open. And the piece shows a bunch of people standing outside with an auctioneer taking live bids. So you're bidding against each other in real time. I was a sales manager in the car business, 17 years in the car business, and I participated in many auctions, both as a buyer and a seller. And all I can say is be careful what you wish for, because auctions require some skill. Live auctions require some skill. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's ego involved. When you're competing against somebody, it gets emotional. There's cheating involved. There's sellers that plant people in the crowd to make shill bids to bid the price up. That might be tougher to do in that home auction, but I know it happens. In cars anyway. There's collusion like that. In an open auction, you got to remember as well, you can bid as many times as you want. It's not like a sealed bid auction where here's my best and final offer, good luck. You can keep bidding. You can bid against each other. So, in the CBC thing, she realizes there's no other bids. I don't know if that's true, but say it was true. She realizes there's no other bids. She's thinking, well, I could have got this house for, $200,000 less. We don't know that. But here's the thing, if that had been, instead of sealed bid, if that had been a live auction and they're bidding against other live buyers, different rules apply. After you outbid the previous bid, they can come back and outbid you. And this can go back and forth 100 more times until you're both spending more than you plan to spend. So it's not, the one-size-fits-all solution that they make it out to be. And there's a reason it's not more commonplace here. It's legal to do that here. People can do that. If you want to auction your home, there are companies that will host that auction for you and set it up. But there's good reasons that we don't do that. So I'll get into that a little more too. like I said, you can continue to bid against each other. You can go over what you were willing to pay. But here's the trouble. You don't have any control as a buyer over the other elements of your offer because the price is not the other element. Remember, I mentioned this earlier. So another important thing to note, the whole argument of sealed bid versus open auction is predicated on the idea that the price is the only factor in the offer. Okay? What about conditions? What are your conditions? Do you have a home inspection condition? Do you have a financing condition? What's your deadline for those conditions? What is the possession date that you desire? What other terms will you include? What chattels are included? What furniture and appliances come with it? How much of a deposit are you going to place when your offer is accepted, when your bid is accepted, when the gavel drops and the auction is closed? In a live auction, all of these other components of your bid, of your offer, would have to be determined by the seller in advance, and they'd have to be fixed so that the only variable is the price, because it would be too complicated to have people bidding on different terms and conditions and dates. All that has to be fixed. So if you go to a live auction on a house, you're going to have to agree to those terms that, hey, possession is March 1st, the deposit required is $50,000, only unconditional bidders are accepted, et cetera, et cetera. So the bidders would have to be pre-qualified in advance. They would have to adhere to those fixed terms in the contract that they're bidding on. And the buyer has no control over any of those other elements. So the offers would have to be unconditional. The highest bid wins. That's the only way to do it. So the other thing to note, in that program, they featured Ontario buyers and sellers. I don't live in Ontario. I'm an Alberta realtor. The rules are different here. There's less regulation in some ways in Alberta. I can't speak to their rules, but I can tell you that here in Alberta, the seller decides the process. The seller determines the process. That is in writing from the Real Estate Council of Alberta. Seller determines the process. Going back to Australia, the live auction process hasn't really curbed that record growth for home prices in every city in Australia. You can look that up. Look up home prices in Australia. They're on the same kind of trajectory as Canadian home prices. There's a lot of factors that are driving that. But I tell you what's not driving that is the way that they're sold. It's a supply and demand thing, right? Regardless, at the end of the day, if the seller can get more money with one method, why would they choose to sell it for less? Why would anyone list their home if they don't get to decide or choose a method that's going to get them the best result in the end? Offers are not registered here. They implied that offers would be registered in Ontario. That's not a thing here. We don't register our offers. Our buyer's agent, as a buyer's agent, we submit our offer to the seller's agent. The seller's agent confirms back that they've received it, and they're required then to present the offer to the seller. That is a rule in Alberta that all offers must be presented to your client. Bottom line, the process here favors the seller. It needs to favor the seller. Why would anyone voluntarily sell their home using a process that was unfair to them? The seller's agent works for the seller, and his job or her job is to get the highest price for the seller and the best conditions. In the sealed bid process, the buyer can determine every element of their offer. And they don't pay a penny more than they are willing to pay. You put the maximum you're willing to pay, knowing that you're competing with all these other buyers. What's your number? What's the most you're willing to pay for this? You might come in way higher than the next buyer, but guess what? You won, and the price of your house is going to go up this year. So, yeah, you're still the winner of the auction. Sealed bid auctions are sort of a gentlemanly way to have an orderly and fair competing offer situation. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, there's been quite a lot of academic study into the nature and the outcomes of different types of auctions. Sealed bid versus English auction, that's the open ascending auction, versus a Dutch auction, which is an open descending auction, so like a reverse auction. Books have been written about it. There's something called the Linkage Principle. Again, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, if you're really bored, if you're still watching this, you got to be bored. The Linkage Principle suggests that open ascending auctions earn more revenue than do sealed bid auctions. And that, might come back to what I mentioned earlier about ego and the energy of it. But I digress. It can be frustrating for buyers and their agents to offer and lose over and over again. Been through that situation. But that speaks mostly to a lack of supply. In Calgary today, as I'm recording this, there are around 500 detached homes for sale, active listings. And there would be, I would estimate, based on previous sales data and projections, right now, probably about 3,000 buyers competing to buy those 500 homes. So it's a seller's market, which is a 180-degree turn from only about 18 to 24 months ago. And honestly, this is a welcome relief to the beleaguered homeowners in Calgary who saw their equity evaporate after the oil crash in 2015. Bottom line, as a buyer or a seller in this market, the best way to arm yourself and prepare yourself is to go out and find yourself a smart, talented, experienced realtor to navigate you through the process and act in your best interest. I happen to know a guy if you need a recommendation. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps. And please call me or text me or DM me. Lots of different ways to get a hold of me, and be happy to help you out. Have a great day.